to him a statistic which he should use in his next speech. As on 31/3/21, there were 8,72,243 vacancies in the central government. 8,72,243 vacancies. And the almighty government of India recruited 78,264 persons to these vacancies, leaving nearly 8 lakh vacancies vacant as of today. This is a statistic which I am sure the Prime Minister will welcome, and he will use it in his next speech. So there was much I liked about the budget, but since I have decided to speak only for a few minutes, I'll leave it to my friends. But the best thing I liked about the Honorable Finance Minister's budget speech was it was her shortest speech, 90 minutes. Thank you, Madam. And returning the compliment, I will also keep my reply very short. Firstly, sir, you would have seen that disruption is the way for change and innovation. There is disruption today in business, disruption in science, disruption in technology, disruption in every activity, because disruption creates innovation, creates the urge to bring about a change. I'm a member of the tukde gang, which is the Hindi version of the word disruption. I'm not worried because in this honorable parliament a question was asked, who are the members of the tukde gang? And the honorable minister said, we have no data available in the tukde gang. There is no data available on the tukde gang. There is no data available on oxygen shortage deaths. There is no data available on the bodies flowing on the rivers. There is no data available on how many migrants walked back to their homes. Yes. There is no data available on doubling farmers' income, which should have been done in 2022.
Yes.
This is a no data available government, otherwise NDA government. But I have some data, sir. And I want you and the Honorable House to look at this data. Last year, the Honorable Finance Minister projected the 21-22 fiscal deficit at 6.8%. I cautioned, saying it will not be contained in 6.8%. They said we'll do better than 6.8%. They've actually done better than 6.8. They have done 6.9. On disinvestment, the target was fixed as 1,75,000 crore. I caution that this will be indiscriminate disinvestment. This will be mindless disinvestment. I'm grateful to the government for accepting our caution and collecting only 78,000 crore as against the target of 1,75,000. On capital expenditure, let's look at some very important data. In 21-22, the budget estimates projected capital expenditure as 5,54,236 crore. Because this budget also lays great emphasis on capital expenditure. So the government's capital expenditure will drive growth. Government's capital expenditure will crowd in private investment. I've seen a number of statements made by the Honorable Minister as well as her officers, So I think it's very important we look at capital expenditure. Now the budget estimate for 21-22 was 5,54,236 crore. But the revised estimate came as a pleasant surprise. It was 6,02,711 crores. I was pleasantly surprised until we get into the finer print and we found that the 6,02,711 includes a one-time debt payment of Air India of 51,971 crores.
That is capital.
That is not a capital expenditure. That is repaying the banks. And if you deduct that amount, it will be 5 lakhs. About 5,52,000 crore, which is less than the budget estimate. I could go on and give a lot of data, but I won't burden my speech with more data. Let's look at some other things. I think the government believes that people have short memories. I'm grateful to my friend Swaminathan Iyer, who pointed out in a recent article, 2 years ago, government promised to privatize BPCL, Container Corporation of India, and the Shipping Corporation of India. There was no word in this year's budget on what progress they have made. Last year, the Honorable Finance Minister said she will privatize 2 public sector banks and 1 insurance company. There's no word in this budget about what happened. Last year, for the 3rd time, they promoted what is called the National Monetization Pipeline. It had different names in different years. And they said, we will raise 600,000 crore, 6 lakh crore of old infrastructure will be sold over 4 years. 1 year has passed, there's no word on that. The railway said 151 passenger trains on 109 routes will be bid out to private sector. There was a tremendous response to this announcement. Do you know how many people responded, sir? 0. 0 bids for this announcement. Why do you make these announcements? Some of them are bad announcements. Some of them may be good announcements. Why do you make announcements if you do not have the capacity to execute any of these announcements? That's why we don't take these announcements seriously. We only look at the outcome budget. There is no purpose at all in looking at this government's proposals in the budget. I only want to look at the outcome budget. Now, sir, I believe the government must have an overarching economic philosophy. You may criticize it, you may say it's good philosophy, bad philosophy, but I think it's very essential a government must have an overarching economic philosophy. My party has one, and we said so when we released the manifesto for 2019. It's based on 3 W's. The first W, work. The second W, welfare. The third W, wealth. We are not against the creation of wealth. Wealth must be created. But work, jobs must be created. Welfare must be promoted. Now let's take jobs. I'm going to leave the others to my friends. Let's take jobs. We have a population of 139 crore people, of which the workforce is 94 crore. But the labor force participation rate, which is defined as a proportion of the total population, is 37.5%, which translates to 52 crore. of the workforce, only 52 crore have some kind of a job, regular or irregular. The median age of India is 28.43. 50% of Indians are below the age of 28.43 and presumably looking for jobs. The government promised 2 crore jobs a year. They should report to us how many jobs were created. According to the CMI's data on unemployment, which is the only reliable data, because the government does not put out data on unemployment anymore, urban unemployment this morning was 7.9%. Rural unemployment was 6.54%. And the budget speech had one statement about job creation, that through Gati Shakti and infrastructure, 60 lakh jobs will be created in 5 years. So that is about 12 lakh jobs a year. The annual addition to the labor force is 47.5 lakhs. If 47.5 lakh people are coming into the labor force, workforce every year, and you are creating 12 lakh jobs, what will the rest do? What will the rest do? The answer is very simple. They will fry and sell pakoras. Sir, finally, I believe that every budget is contextual. What is the context in which we are? What is the context of the Indian economy today? There is an old Tamil verse, and I won't recite it. It's attributed to Nanneri, work composed by Shivaprakash. Sometimes it is attributed to Thiruvaruppa of Vallalar. But the key words are Idam, Porul, Eval, Kalam. In English, you can say context. Idam, Porul, Eval, Kalam. Tamil is a very rich language. What is context has been explained in beautiful 4 words. Idam, Porul, Eval, Kalam. Economic policy is contextual. What is the context today? In 2016-17, India's GDP grew by 8.3%. In 2019-20, it's slid down year by year to 3.7%. And in 2020-21, the pandemic year, we hit a recession. I will leave out that year. But in 4 years, this government has brought down the growth rate, pre-pandemic, brought down the growth rate from 8.3% to 3.7%. In 2019-20, the GDP in constant terms was 145 lakh crore rupees. In 2020-21, the pandemic year, it came down to 135 lakh crores. We are growing only when we go back to 145 lakh crore.
That's all.
145 lakh crore is the last benchmark that we hit. India is growing only when it gets back to 145 lakh crore in constant prices and grows higher. We have not reached that stage. Government claims we are running fast, but we are running fast to stay in the same place. You have to run fast to go ahead. You can't run fast in the same place. This is not a treadmill. Sir, the budget papers say nominal growth in the next year, 22-23, will be 11.1%. I heard the new chief economic advisor say real growth will be 8%. Now, the Honorable Finance Minister must clarify to this House, which is correct. If will nominal growth be 11.1 and real growth be 8, in which event is the Honorable Finance Minister assuring this House that inflation will be only about 3.1?
Correct.
One of the numbers is wrong. Either the budget number of nominal growth rate at 11.1 is wrong, or the new chief economic advisor's prediction that real growth will be 8% is wrong. This has to be clarified. Sir, I said I support creation of wealth, but we have to create work and we have to promote welfare. Let me end by what the government has done for welfare or not done for welfare in this context. Well, let's lay the context. India's economy is not yet recovered to the level of the pre-pandemic year. Everybody will agree with that. In the last 2 years, millions of jobs have been lost. 60 lakh MSMEs have been closed down, according to the Association of MSMEs. 60 lakh MSMEs have been closed down. 84% of households have suffered a loss of income. Per capita income has declined. Per capita expenditure has declined. 4.6 crore people have been pushed into extreme poverty. Huge learning loss among school children, especially children who live in rural India and are enrolled in government schools and have no access to devices. Malnutrition, stunting and wasting among children has increased according to World Health Report, and India's rank in the Global Hunger Index has fallen to 101 out of 116 countries. WPI inflation is estimated by the government's own numbers as over 12% and CPI inflation at 5.3%. There is flight of talent from India, business talent, engineering talent, medical talent, science talent is fleeing India. There's an emergence of monopolies and duopolies. There's crony capitalism. Top 10% of India garner 57% of the national income and hold 77% of the nation's wealth. Shame. 102 billionaires have become 142 billionaires, and the 142 billionaires' wealth has increased from 23 lakh crore rupees to 53 lakh crore rupees in 2 years. This is the context of India. In this context, what has the budget done for welfare? Subsidy for petroleum for this year and the next year from 6,517 crore cut to 5,813 crore. Fertilizer from 1,40,000 crore to 1,05,000 crore. Food from 2,86,219 crore to 2,06,481 crore. In agriculture, from 4.3% of GDP to 3.84% of GDP. Crop insurance from 15,989 to 15,500 crore. And Maganrega from 98,000 crore to 73,000 crore. Welfare has been thrown to the wind. Work has not been created. Welfare has been thrown to the wind. And you say, we are creating wealth. You are creating wealth for whom? For the 142 billionaires? Yes. Or for the crony capitalists? Yes. Who are you creating wealth for? If wealth is not shared, what is the point of creating wealth? Yes. Sir, this government has forgotten the poor. The word poor occurs twice in the budget. The word jobs occurs thrice in the budget. One name occurs 6 times, and I compliment the finance minister for being loyal to her prime minister. You have forgotten the poor. Let me end by saying, the poor will not forget you. The poor have long memories. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Arun Singh.
धन्यवाद सर. जो केंद्रीय बजट 2022-23.
So, P. Chidambaram, speaking in the upper house of the parliament and in a sharp rebuttal to Prime Minister's speech, he has questioned that tukde jibe by saying that there is no data available on any such gang. He also says that neither is there a data that has been made available for oxygen shortage.
अभी कह रहे थे कि यार
for doubling of the farmers' income.
गरीबों को छोड़ दिया, उनके लिए कुछ नहीं किया. अरे आप पूरा बजट और पूरी
And also
मोदी
no
सरकार-
data available on the dead bodies floating in the river Ganga. So as opposed to Prime Minister's speech, which was based on an accusatory stance and historical references, Chidambaram's was based on data. He goes ahead and talks about the budget, which is, according to him, has been all about false numbers that were being given out. He also says that 8,000 crores were collected in the form of taxes, which thankfully, he says, has been slightly lower as compared to the BJP government's past years. On that note, I'm slipping into a very short break here on Mirror Now. News continues on the other side.